So if the genealogies aren't primarily date-setting devices, and Yalad has this more general usage of descendants, why are the genealogies there in the first place?
Well, the genealogies are there for many reasons. Of course, we're still linking to people, like we're going back to Adam. We want to say...
So you link it, the Genesis, or the Matthew genealogies link Jesus back to Adam or Abraham.
But the Genesis ones are linking Adam and his creation and his fall to other events. And so genealogy is a way of quickly telling history. We beget this. If you look, for example, in Chronicles, the first few chapters of Chronicles, it's just straight genealogy. We're telling history, and we just remind people that there's a prior history to this thing. But what the genealogy sometimes does is it stops and remembers a particular moment. Mm-hmm. For example, we remember the story of Cain and Abel. Mm-hmm. So it's a way of saying we have the flow of history, but here is a very important moment, Cain and Abel. We have the story of Lamech, mm-hmm. the guy who kills a kid and then brags about it and sings about it. And then we move to the flood, the great event that they're trying to bring in.
Right.
The flood is not just about an event that happened, a disaster that happened, but it was about the judgment of God. And so the genealogy takes us through a series of events, but binds them together with the people who are in those events.
So it almost sounds like it's a way of telling a story. This is the important point, this is the important point, but you need to see the connection. It's a way of telling that narrative quickly so that you can get to the meatier parts of the story, if you will.
Yes, well, and the meatier parts in this case are the subject of the growth of sin. Mm-hmm. Adam and Eve ate a piece of fruit. Oh my.
Right.
We always want to know what it is. Is it an apple? Is it a grapefruit, a pomegranate, whatever? They ate a piece of fruit that they weren't allowed to. But then Cain kills his brother out of anger. Not anger towards Cain, or towards Abel, but anger towards God.
Right.
Yeah. And then when God curses him, he's upset. Well, people will hurt me if they find out. Or God says you'll be a wanderer, so he goes out and settles down. People are resisting God. Then you get down to the flood, which is a very, very strange story. But one of the things you notice in the flood is this very powerful statement. It says, every thought of man's heart was continually evil always.
Right.
And so when we do call some attention to something, the attention, that moment where we have this moment of attention is something that is a terribly, terribly important. It's not just an event, it's a qualitative event.
Right. And that's kind of interesting because I look at the Genesis genealogies, and in Genesis 5, you've got all the people living right around 1,000 years, 900 plus years. You get to the genealogies after in Genesis 11, and now you see this precipitous drop off in ages down to where people start living 120 years effectively.
Yeah, and it's relative. The first part, they are relatively the same.
Right.
I went through them again today, and I was looking at them, and they're just about the same. Even the age in which you're siring somebody is much higher than our age.
Right.
And so when you come after the flood, though, not only does the age of death come more quickly, but also the age of siring a child. Now, what these stories are doing is they're leading us up to a great story, Abram.
Right.
And what do we know about Abram? Well,
if we go back to the genealogy, so you've got this kind of linking of there's this important event God creates, man falls, things kind of go orderly for a while, then the effects of the curse intensify in some sense after the flood, and now you've got this precipitous drop in things that the curse is intensifying in some
But look
sense.
at the intensification with Abraham. She can't have a kid because she's too old.
Right.
And it's a real small number. She's 65 when we first meet her. He's 75. She's too old, and one scripture says he's as good as dead in that regard. Their age is nothing. In fact, when you come to him and he finally gets her pregnant, who would have thought that someone being 100 years old
was a remarkable thing?
It was a remarkable thing. But it wasn't a remarkable thing before. But see, what's happening is the curse is affecting everything. Remember, the curse was originally, in the day that you will eat of it, you will surely die. But there's more to death.
than just the physical. Yeah.
Yeah, than just the physical death. Look at the death of the virility and the strength of man in this regard, and look at our ages. We die at a relatively young age, and we think it's an amazing thing that if we're over 65, we can have a kid. And if we're 100, it's amazing.
So you've got these genealogies that one of their primary functions is to link people so that you know where they are, to know where they fit in the story. But it's a way to tell the narrative in a very quick way to focus on the key points.
And develop that theme that you want to develop. That is the big thing.
Focus on developing a theme.
Focus on developing a theme. Growth of sin, the growth of the power of death, those types of things are very important to them. So when someone says, this is the important thing, the dates, I don't think that's the important thing.